Welcome to Tech Talks with Kinsoft. What does a scoop of gelato on a sunny afternoon have in common with, the architectural blueprints to a multi-million-dollar custom home?
Well, on the surface, absolutely nothing. I mean, one is a fleeting sugar rush, and the other is probably the most stressful financial commitment of your entire life.
Right, exactly. But right now, the data generated by both of those completely mundane activities, your dessert preferences and your structural engineering documents, they are actually funding one of the fastest growing extortion cartels in the global cyber underground.
Yeah, and it completely shatters that illusion of localized safety we all kind of carry around. We are conditioned to think of cybercrime as this invisible war, right?
Right.
Like it's waged against massive international banks or defense contractors or tech giants.
Yeah, the big guys.
Exactly.
Right.
But the reality of the modern threat landscape has just shifted dramatically. The front lines are no longer just in Silicon Valley or Wall Street. They are sitting in your neighborhood strip mall and on your local construction sites.
Which brings us to our mission for today's exploration. We are looking at some recent reporting from Cyber Daily and Real Estate Business regarding a major cyber event that hit an Australian home builder called Champion Homes.
Right. A very localized target.
Yeah. We are going to figure out exactly how this breach occurred, pull apart the shadowy and frankly, shockingly corporate business model of the attackers, and understand the impossible tightrope modern companies are forced to walk when their digital walls are suddenly breached. Okay, let's unpack this.
To really grasp the gravity of this situation, we need to look closely at the target itself. Champion Homes is a prominent Sydney-based home builder headquartered in Hoxton Park.
Okay, so a major regional player.
Very much so. They service the greater Sydney and Illawarra areas. They handle everything from, initial home designs to knockdown and rebuild projects and custom house and land packages.
So they are managing people's biggest life investments. I mean, you're talking about immense amounts of trust here.
Oh, absolutely. Clients hand over incredible amounts of financial and personal data just to get the process started.
Right.
And on April 21st, that reservoir of trust was breached. Champion Homes was officially listed on a dark web leak site by a ransomware operation known as DragonForce.
DragonForce.
Yeah. And they didn't just list the company's name as an empty threat. They dumped 44 gigabytes of highly sensitive data directly onto the open dark web for anyone to download.
Wow. Let's visualize that payload for a second, because 44 gigabytes can sound deceptively small if you were thinking about modern video files, right?
Yeah, a handful of 4K movies could hit that limit in no time.
Exactly. But we are talking about text and PDFs here. So imagine a massive industrial warehouse floor. Now fill that entire floor with rows and rows of tall, heavy metal filing cabinets, completely packed with dense, text-heavy paper documents.
That's a lot of paper.
It's a staggering amount. But here is the critical part about how modern ransomware works. They didn't just lock the doors to that warehouse. Before they locked the company out, they silently wheeled every single filing cabinet out the back door, photocopied every single page, and then put them back.
What's fascinating here is the specific alchemy of that stolen data mix. This is what we call double extortion in the industry.
Double extortion, right, because they hit you twice.
Exactly. The hackers encrypt the system to stop your business from functioning, but they also steal the data to threaten you with public exposure. In this 44 gigabyte dump, you have two very distinct, very dangerous categories of information exposed simultaneously.
Okay, so what's the first category?
First, you have the corporate operational secrets. The reporting shows this included tender documents, proprietary pricing models, and subcontractor agreements.
Oh, wow. So that is the absolute lifeblood of a construction company's competitive edge. You essentially hand a competitor your entire playbook on a silver platter.
Yeah, it's devastating commercially. But beyond the corporate espionage angle, you have the deeply personal, highly sensitive human element. The leak included dense spreadsheets of employee payroll data.
Which is so much more than just a paycheck stub.
Oh, way more. Payroll data isn't just a list of names and hourly rates. It contains tax file numbers, home addresses, bank account routing numbers, and superannuation details, which, for our global listeners, is the mandatory Australian retirement pension system.
That's practically a full identity theft starter kit.
It really is. Add in the thousands of detailed customer quotes, which likely contain personal contact details, financial limits, and property addresses, and you have a ready-made treasure trove for identity thieves.
We are talking about highly organized, incredibly localized data extraction here. This isn't a random automated virus from the early 2000s that just, bricks your computer.
No, not at all.
Someone had to specifically target, extract, and organize this data, which brings up the obvious question. Who actually has the resources and the operational capacity to hit a regional Australian home builder with this level of precision?
Well, the entity claiming responsibility goes by the name DragonForce. And to understand how they operate, we have to look at the evolution of digital extortion. DragonForce functions as an economy, not just a standalone gang of hackers.
Here's where it gets really interesting. DragonForce operates under a model known as ransomware-as-a-service, or RAS.
Yeah, RAS.
Right.
Historically, a threat actor had to be a technical polymath. You had to code complex encryption malware from scratch, figure out how to bypass enterprise security networks, manage encrypted communication servers, and, handle the actual infiltration.
It was a one-man band, basically.
Exactly. The barrier to entry was incredibly high, which naturally limited the number of attacks happening globally. But ransomware-as-a-service completely dismantled that barrier.
Think of RAS like a twisted franchise model, right? But let's look at the actual mechanics of it. You don't need to know how to design commercial kitchen equipment to open a fast food franchise.
Right, you just buy the system.
Exactly. The corporation, in this case DragonForce, builds the kitchen, they write the sophisticated encryption algorithms, they build the sleek, automated payment portals on the dark web where victims are sent to negotiate.
They even maintain the leak sites.
Yeah. All the franchisee or the affiliate has to do is walk down the street and find a storefront with an unlocked back door. They scan the internet for a server with an outdated password, or they trick an employee into clicking a phishing link. Once they are in, they just deploy the corporation's software.
The division of labor is incredibly efficient. DragonForce focuses purely on software development and infrastructure management, while a decentralized army of affiliates handles the breaking and entering.
And they recruit these affiliates pretty openly, right?
Oh, yeah. They advertise these franchise opportunities publicly on Russian-language hacking forums. Let me share the actual recruitment pitch DragonForce recently posted.
Please do.
It reads, "We are ready to open our doors for researchers. Creating your team has never been easier. Just enter your TOX ID, new login with password, and pay the $500 verification with XMR or BTC."
Calling digital extortionists researchers is a staggering level of corporate cynicism.
Isn't it?
But I want to pause on that onboarding process because it sounds dangerously frictionless. What is a TOX ID?
So TOX is a peer-to-peer, end-to-end encrypted messaging protocol. Unlike WhatsApp or Signal, it doesn't require a phone number, an email address, or any central server that law enforcement could potentially subpoena.
So there's no paper trail whatsoever?
None. You are just a string of random alphanumeric characters. It guarantees absolute anonymity from the moment you apply.
Wait, I need to push back on this $500 verification fee. If these cartels are extracting hundreds of thousands, sometimes millions of dollars in ransom payments, why is the buy-in only $500?
It seems low, right?
Yeah, is there a technical catch, or is it really that cheap to become an international cyber criminal?
It really is that cheap. The low upfront cost is a calculated strategy to maximize volume. The real revenue is generated on the back end through profit sharing. DragonForce passes up to 80% of the ransom payments directly to these affiliates.
An 80-20 split. That is incredibly generous for the affiliate.
It is, but DragonForce is taking zero operational risk. The affiliate is the one actually intruding into the networks, leaving digital footprints, and risking exposure.
I see.
DragonForce sits back, takes a 20% cut from merely maintaining the software, and lets the affiliates do the risky labor. It heavily incentivizes volume. If you keep 80% of the take, your goal is to hit as many targets as possible, as quickly as possible.
And the payment methods themselves ensure the money vanishes the moment it changes hands. The pitch specified payment in XMR or BTC, meaning Monero or Bitcoin.
Exactly.
Now, most people have heard of Bitcoin, but Monero seems to be the currency of choice for the dark web lately. Why the distinction?
Well, Bitcoin operates on a public ledger. Every transaction is visible, meaning forensic accountants and law enforcement can actually trace the flow of Bitcoin from a victim's wallet to a hacker's exchange account.
Right. It's pseudonymous, not fully anonymous.
Precisely. Monero, or XMR, uses advanced cryptography to completely obfuscate the sender, the receiver, and the amount being transferred. It is a true privacy coin.
So once money is converted into Monero, it essentially falls into a black hole.
Completely untraceable.
This combination of anonymous recruitment, untraceable currency, and an 80-20 profit split really explains the sheer velocity of their attacks. The sources note that DragonForce was only first observed in December of 2023.
Which is very recent.
Yeah. Yet in roughly 5 months, they and their affiliates have been responsible for at least 506 ransomware attacks.
Over 100 successful, devastating attacks a month. More than 3 a day. It is an industrial scale of digital violence that we have never seen before.
And it brings us back to that scoop of Jalad we talked about at the start. The sources explicitly point out that 16 of those 506 incidents targeted Australian organizations.
Right in our backyard.
Yeah. Before the attack on Champion Homes in late April, their most recent local victim was Gelatissimo, the popular gelato brand.
Because to a DragonForce affiliate, a target is just an IP address with a vulnerability. They don't care if you sell desserts or if you pour concrete for custom homes in Oxton Park. You are just a node on their revenue stream.
Which shifts our focus to the morning after. When an organization actually discovers that its blueprints, customer quotes, and employee tax files have been dumped onto a dark website by a franchise cyber gang, what exactly does the response look like?
It triggers an immediate multi-track crisis protocol. Based on the reports, Champion Homes executed the standard incident response playbook. A spokesperson confirmed that upon becoming aware of the cyber event, they immediately engaged leading cyber experts to provide advice and containment.
Okay, but what does containment actually mean in a technical sense? You can't just unplug the router and call it a day.
No, definitely not. Forensic investigators have to actively hunt the attackers inside the network. They look for indicators of compromise, or IOCs.
Like fingerprints at a crime scene.
Exactly. This means analyzing server logs to see which user accounts were hijacked, tracking lateral movement to see how far the hackers spread, and identifying the malicious command and control beacons the hackers left behind to maintain access.
So containment is an active combat zone.
Very much so. Containment means severing those connections, patching the initial vulnerability, like closing that unlocked backdoor we talked about, and ensuring the threat actors are permanently locked out of the environment.
The company stated that the event was contained and that it had a, quote, limited impact on our operations, unquote, allowing them to continue providing services to their clients as usual.
Which makes sense from a business standpoint.
Right. From a sheer business survival standpoint, I understand the phrasing. You have massive construction projects underway, contractors waiting for materials, and deadlines to meet. You have to keep the physical hammers swinging. But there is an intense friction there.
Oh, massive friction. The friction between business continuity and data reality is the hardest tightrope modern executives have to walk.
For sure.
The physical infrastructure, the pouring of concrete, the framing of walls, that can all continue. But behind the scenes, the company had to publicly acknowledge a far more damaging reality. An investigation revealed that a subset of data was likely copied from our systems.
And we know that subset was a 44-gigabyte warehouse of tendered documents and personal payroll data. What stands out to you listening right now?
It's a chilling thought.
It really is. Imagine the dissonance of being a customer who just signed a contract for a knockdown rebuild. The company is sending you emails saying services are continuing as usual, construction is on schedule, while simultaneously your financial limits and home address might be sitting on a Russian hacking forum for anyone to download.
It's terrifying for the customer.
Or imagine being an employee pouring concrete, knowing your tax file number is compromised. The PR instinct is to project stability, but the human cost of the breach is actively unfolding.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it illustrates exactly why regulatory bodies exist. Companies cannot be trusted to self-regulate a crisis that threatens their own survival.
Because their primary instinct is just to survive.
Exactly. Champion Homes noted, this impacts some of our employees and customers. We will be communicating with impacted individuals in line with our obligations. Those obligations are a rigid, non-negotiable legal framework.
The sources outline that Champion Homes took the necessary regulatory steps, reporting the event to 2 distinct governmental bodies. The Office of the Australian Information Commissioner, the OAIC, and the Australian Cybersecurity Centre, the ACSC.
Those are critical.
So why are both of these notifications legally required?
They serve 2 vital, completely different functions in the cyber ecosystem. The ACSC is focused on the mechanics of the crime and national defense.
Okay, the technical side.
Right. When they receive reports that DragonForce is hitting Gelatissimo and then a home builder, they can extract those indicators of compromise we talked about earlier. They map the attacker's tactics, share threat intelligence with other businesses, and build a broader defense strategy. They need to know how the attack happened.
So the ACSC is tracking the weapons and the tactics.
Exactly. Whereas the OAIC is entirely focused on the victims. They enforce the notifiable data breaches scheme under Australian privacy law. If an organization loses control of personal information that is likely to result in serious harm, like the very real threat of identity theft stemming from stolen payroll and superannuation data, they are legally obligated to notify the OAIC. And more importantly, they are legally obligated to notify the affected individuals.
So the OAIC essentially forces the company to look the victims in the eye. They ensure the business doesn't just focus on getting their servers back online, but also takes legal responsibility for the human cost of the leaked data.
They hold them accountable.
Champion Homes issued a statement saying, "We take the protection of our data seriously and sincerely apologize for any concern this event may have caused." But an apology, no matter how sincere, does not unleak 44 gigabytes of data.
No, it doesn't. Once the data is exfiltrated and published, the damage is permanent. For the affected employees, it means years of monitoring their credit profiles, securing their superannuation accounts, and remaining hypervigilant against targeted phishing scams.
Because the hackers will use that specific info to trick them later.
Exactly. They might use their stolen tender documents or payroll details as bait to trick them into revealing even more information.
Which shows how this cycle of extortion feeds itself. The data stolen today becomes the phishing lures used to breach the next company tomorrow.
We are witnessing the total commoditization of cybercrime. When malicious tools can be rented for a $500 verification fee, the threat actors no longer need to be sophisticated engineers.
They just need to be persistent opportunists.
Exactly. But if we project this trend forward, we are approaching a terrifying new threshold.
What happens when they optimize it even further?
Well, think about the integration of artificial intelligence into this ransomware-as-a-service model.
Yeah.
Right now, a human affiliate still has to pay $500, scan for vulnerabilities, and manually deploy the payload.
It still requires human effort.
Right. What happens when DragonForce trains an AI to autonomously scan the internet, write hyper-personalized phishing emails based on previously leaked data, and deploy ransomware 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, without human intervention?
The scale just explodes.
The barrier to entry drops from $500 to absolute zero, and the scale goes from 3 attacks a day to 3,000.
So what does this all mean? It means the old defense of being too small or too analog to be a target is entirely obsolete. You could be building custom homes, you could be churning gelato, or you could be running a local accounting firm.
It really doesn't matter anymore.
If your business holds digital data, you are participating in a global ecosystem where someone, somewhere, views your network as a potential payday. Security is no longer just an IP problem. It is a fundamental pillar of existing as a business.
Absolutely.
You can't just build strong physical houses. Your digital foundations have to be equally robust, or the entire structure collapses.
That's a great way to put it.
If you're listening to this and wondering about the state of your own digital foundations, whether you are a small business owner, managing a mid-sized team, or just want to make absolutely sure your organization isn't the next easy target for a franchise cyber cartel, we highly encourage you to take action today. Visit www.kinsoft.com/.oo to discuss your own security and IT needs. You want to make sure your defenses are ready because the tools to dismantle them are only getting cheaper and more accessible.
Outpacing the opportunist requires proactive strategy. Preparedness is the only viable defense mechanism we have left.
That brings us to the end of our discussion for today. Thank you so much for joining us on this exploration. We will catch you next time.
Goodbye, everyone. Remember, your everyday data is always on the main stage. Stay vigilant.